just a tiny bit of Swahili.
Did you
So
really?
I impressed them when she opened the door. She said Jumbo, and I said, Jumbo Sana. She was like, Barigani. I said, Wutsuri. And she's like, wow.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Stephen Lewis. That's my friend Mike Swift. And we're two radio dudes who were kind of looking for a way to talk. And we had this idea. What if we each took a topic, made it completely unfiltered, and just kind of gave our thoughts on that topic? And it's wide open. It can be anything. Now, I don't know what Mike's topic is tonight. Mike doesn't know what my topic is tonight. We're just going to throw it out there and talk because I think you will agree with me. The one thing about radio, and great, it's fun, but the one thing about radio is you have to cater to a certain audience. So everything has to be kind of streamlined to the point where you're not straying too far as to who you're talking to from an audience standpoint. So a lot of times, if you're working for a female targeted radio station, you're not going to bring up a subject that is male dominant for multiple reasons. Same token, if you're working, if I'm on my rock station, I'm not going to come in and be like, dude, did you see that movie on Lifetime last night? Oh my God. I didn't think they were going to get together, but they did. So, I mean, so in this arena, we can kind of, whatever crosses your mind, whether it's something that happened at a gas station or something you've been thinking about or something that's on TV. Politics are probably bound to come up at some point in time, but I decided I'm not going political on the first night.
The first night, right?
First night's off limits, but you
Okay,
can by
okay.
all means.
Oh no. Oh no, I'm definitely not tapping that keg. At least not on the first night. No.
That being said, so what's on your mind tonight?
So, our everyday, real day jobs take us in and around people of everyday walks of life, all sorts of ethnicities and races and different shapes and sizes and creeds. Well, the job took me in front of someone who spoke no English today, and I had to communicate without either of us clearly understanding one another.
Sign language?
A lot of sign language. Luckily, that gesture didn't come up during the conversation. I think I would have learned that I was in trouble at that point and probably would have exited the conversation. But nonetheless, what stuck with me as I left that conversation is the power of human gesture. I mean, this does a lot. It does a lot, and it speaks universal languages, and that's kind of what I mean. Just having to sit there and read somebody's facial expressions and read their body language to know whether they're understanding what I'm saying, whether they're enjoying what I'm saying, disliking what I'm saying. So it's just the power of communication from one body, one person, one being to another. That just thought that was a very that it's amazing.
Have you ever wondered what it's like for the other side? I know there's a lot of, and then I don't want to jump into immigration because obviously that's a hot button topic tonight. And I think I saw this a lot when I took myself to Disney at Christmas time in Florida. I don't speak a lick of Spanish. I don't. Beyond a Mexican food menu, like that's about the extent of the Spanish that I know. But just being in Orlando for a few days, and I see this a lot when I go to visit my parents in Arizona, the Spanish speaking community is much bigger there than where we live. And a lot of the conversation is in Spanish. And I kind of, I think we as people who predominantly speak English, I would imagine, I know it's frustrating when you can't understand something, but I kind of wonder what that's like from the other side. If you're, regardless of how you're in this country, you're in this country, but that's got to be kind of frustrating to try to communicate because you can't necessarily get your point across. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's almost like you're on an island, really. If you're dropped in the middle of anywhere and you're the only one that speaks the language that you speak, yeah, it's got to be pretty frustrating. It's got to be scary. Um, like, I mean, just simple things from ordering food to understanding maybe a weather storm warning or something of that nature, some kind of event that's, hey, this is headed your way and you have no
Right.
idea. It's kind of like when my family moved to Ohio. That first summer, I remember there were uh, tornado warnings coming through the area as this area typically gets.
Yeah.
And they're naming off. We're watching the news, and they're naming off the counties in the path of this storm system. And I had no idea what county. I'm like, okay, I know what county I'm in, but
As the gutters are
don't.
coming off the house. I think it's close.
I think it's here, but it was a little scary at the time because you really had no idea because you're in a place that you're not used to, and having to make that translation even in English, from English to English, it could be kind of scary.
When I was in Orlando, I saw a lot of the kids were doing the translating, which is kind of weird because over here, and I mean, I used to joke about it with your kids all the time. It was stranger danger, the kind of thing. But if you don't speak the language, now your
Right.
kids are talking to strangers because they're the ones that can speak the language and communicate. And it's just kind of like it kind of goes against everything, we're taught as little kids, stranger danger, and parents teach their kids, hey, do not go out there and talk to strangers. But when there's that language barrier, you have the 7-year old that's communicating because for some reason they speak better English than what the parents do, which is kind of a weird. I've never really thought about that until like right now. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh wow.
That is an interesting story, which is interesting enough because that's exactly what happened today. Was the woman I was speaking with, her I'm assuming was her child, kind of bridged the gap, and I mean he couldn't have been more than maybe 7 or 8, but it makes sense. I mean, he's young enough where he's in school, so he's learning English, and I'm sure he's learned the language of his parents from their communication. So it only made sense that he kind of filled in the gaps wherever there was a major barrier where both of us, were kind of like, I have no idea what you're trying to tell me.
It is weird though, because they say, what is it, 90% of the communication you give is nonverbal.
Hmm.
And I do believe that because I think you can look at someone, unless you're someone that has resting bitch face or whatever, and you're not necessarily in a bad mood, but everybody thinks you are all the time.
Right.
But I think like your body language says a lot, and not just in any body language from if you're used to being in close proximity with someone and then all of a sudden they become distant. It's almost like their body language becomes distant before they physically, what I mean, or verbally tell you they've given you an idea that they've become distant. If you're able to pick up the, signals that they're throwing down. But I always kind of wonder because I'm a big people watcher, and I know we used to, for like radio purposes, you would watch people everywhere. And if you were in the store and somebody did something that was really stupid, you were like, oh, you're about to have a bad day tomorrow as you hear what I was saying about you, kind of thing. So I always watch people, but I think now maybe because, as much as I hate to say, getting older, I kind of wonder what got people more so to where they are now than I ever had before. I was always interested in people per se, but like now, like you look at somebody and like, I wonder how happy they really are or how unhappy they really are. You know what I mean? Like I wonder more. And it's answers and questions that I'll never know, but all that comes from nonverbal language.
Right, right. It's interesting enough where just in everyday life, you interact with someone, you automatically assume that that person that you're interacting with is going to be able to interact or communicate in the same way that you're communicating. And it's almost a sudden shock when you realize, oh, wait a minute, this person doesn't speak English, or this person maybe they're nonverbal, or whatever the case may be. But it's so interesting to be reminded suddenly how much we take simple communication for granted.
I don't know how my parents take care of my nephew, and Jaden is special needs, and he, for the longest time, communicated predominantly through his tablet, which was kind of weird because you couldn't have like the normal conversations. And when I went and saw my parents back in November, and I was amazed at how many leaps and bounds he's come as far as like communication and whatever. He could talk a little bit more and you could actually understand what he was saying. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff that comes from his tablet and whatnot, but it's just, and he'll never know, like, he will never know the difference because he's just that's how he is. So he will just, in his world, he's normal.
Hmm.
And it's not saying that he's not normal, but I mean, for
Right. No, I
us,
understand what you're saying.
he's, you know, he doesn't communicate the way we in a perfect world would like him to be able to communicate so we can understand every word that says. And it's just kind of, it's strange because this like way we I think take for granted how good we have it and how
Hmm.
easy.
What I'm learning, or I guess being reminded that I've taken for granted, is how not just humans, but all living things, literally all living things, adapt to whatever situation that they're in, or their surroundings, whether it be like a person trying to figure out how to communicate in a country that they're not familiar with, or like even a plant growing around a building. Have you ever watched how a plant will grow and
Yeah.
form its way around a building, or even through, if it's eventually finding a crack and becomes strong enough? But it's amazing just how nature itself will adapt to whatever is put in front of it. And I
Yeah.
think in the long run, that's really probably what I guess what my topic is kind of touching on. Just the adaptability of just nature, not just humans, but just nature in general.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's true. You have dogs. I know, like, my dog can't talk. I wish she could. That would be phenomenal. But I can tell when she's antsy. Oh, okay, you're telling me you need to go to the bathroom without telling me you
right.
need to go to the bathroom. Like, it's without coming out and going, you open this door and take me outside. Yeah, it's kind of it is interesting. Something to think about though, especially, in the world we live in now where your odds of encountering someone who doesn't necessarily speak the same language of you increases greatly, and you don't even necessarily have to leave the city or town or space that you live in for that to happen. Interesting thought there, Michael. So my topic for tonight comes from, do you know today is National DJ Day?
It's funny because I kind of forgot that, and I was on Facebook earlier and saw that someone posted for National DJ Day, and I went, oh crap, it is it is National
Yeah,
DJ.
I have been obsessed with time for a long time and the wasting of time. But National DJ, I saw a bunch of pictures of people who got their start years ago. And if we go back to one night, I want to do a complete like insight into the glory days, if you will. But the one thing I think people either they don't care about as much anymore or they don't get it. Because I don't think if you've ever done what we've done, you truly understand how that is. Like, I mean, it is a walk of life where if you're doing it right, kind of like you were saying earlier, you will talk to every walk of life that you come into contact with where it is. But what bothers me is I didn't get into radio until I was almost done with college. And I was never fascinated by it as a kid. I could care less about it as a
Mhm.
kid. I mean, I would like encounter DJs from time to time, but it wasn't anything that I was like, I'm going to do that. I could care less. And then I started doing it and I realized kind of what it was. And my problem, I think, today with a lot of it is it's not as live and local as it used to be. And I don't mean to pull back the curtain on it, but it's just true. Like if you look at any
Mhm.
stations, and I'll take a couple that we used to work for, there's no actual person there, you know. And I
I mean, they're
saw things,
there, but they're not
they're
actually in
not
the
there.
studio at the time that you're hearing them. Right.
Correct.
You know,
And I
to
saw
kind of
the
explain.
we'll never use AI. Yeah, but you use somebody in
But
Philadelphia to talk to somebody in, Dayton.
20 different markets. Yeah. I
Right.
mean,
Which you might as well just use AI.
yeah.
It's just, it's not, and that kind of bothers me because I look back I didn't run into him. I spent New Year's Eve with Andrew Z in Toledo, and him and I were catching up talking about the old days and everything. And it was a different, it was just a different time, and it was a fun time, and you really did talk to people, like, and you had control over, you know, you did a show per se because you went in and however, whoever decided to call you dictated how your day or night was going to go. And if you
Mhm.
brought up something, the response that came back to what you brought up was, dictated how your day was going to go. And I was always, since you started this off with talking about communication, I was always amazed when I would talk about something and we used to have to come up with essentially a new show every day. There were no
Mhm.
repeats. I mean, you might repeat something, but it was a year or so later before you repeated it. If you repeated it and you probably put some kind of spin on it instead of just straight up repeating it again. But if you talked about something, there were no repeats. And it's kind of funny because I used to remember seeing someone if I were in public, and you would get a variety of different responses. Like you would, I remember what you said, and somebody would be mad at you, and you wouldn't necessarily remember. And then you would go and you would talk to somebody else, and they would remember something else that you said because it was pertinent to their life at the time. And it's just kind of weird how that stuff stuck. And like for you or me, I was just like, I was looking for something to do to kill a half an hour on the air. And that's what it came up. But for somebody else, like they totally remembered that or that stuck. And I feel like that's what a lot of people say radio is dying. I don't necessarily believe that it's dying because it's still free for the most part. And as long as it's free, but I definitely think it has done a fantastic job in the last 15 plus years of convincing people to not interact with it unless it's through some kind of keyboard warrior social media interaction or whatever, and that counts as good. And I just don't think it's the same anymore, and that hurts a little bit because it's kind of funny. I still talk to people that listened to me almost 20 years ago, and that's crazy that that connection was
Mhm.
made through something I said on the air, whether it had been good, bad, or indifferent. And like that's the kind of thing that I don't think happens as much anymore. And how could it? Because, I laugh at the, hey, you can call our app and leave us a voicemail, and then maybe we'll play it back on the air. Yeah, F that. It's not the same thing.
Oh, it's
Like
not. It's not.
it's not even, oh, hey, I had a voicemail from 3 days ago. Let me play it back. Like it's just, it's kind of taken, and don't get me wrong, I love it, and I'm not trying to get fired, but I
Right.
love it, but it's just kind of by corporate necessity because all those companies are in carry such debt. It has taken away, in a way, what's special about it because there is something different about. I mean, I can pre-record a radio show and it can air and it can be entertaining, it can be fun, and people might like it, but it's still not the same as if I crack a microphone and bring up something or talk about something or do something in the moment. And there's not the interaction there that it used to be. And that kind of like every picture I saw today of like people who were posting their national DJ photos from the good old days, I was like, oh, those were the days. Like you went, and if I was sick, I'd go in and this is, it would be as basic as I wanted it to be. But if I went in
But
on a
you were
normal day,
there.
yeah, if I went in on a normal day and I was having fun, like it was all right. What do you want to talk? What's on your mind? And what are we talking
Yeah.
about today? And
Hmm.
it was great. It was just more times than not, I never felt like that job was work. It was work because if you really truly loved it, you put in far more hours than just the time you were on the air, but it was never really work. Like I enjoyed it. And even the people that thought I was an asshole, I still enjoyed the fact that they thought I was an asshole. Like I appreciated the hatred, so to speak, as much as I appreciated the love because I knew in my head, I'm like, I'm getting to you in some way. I'm causing a reaction out of you. I want you want to communicate with me, even if it's just to tell me to F off, you're still taking that time to pick up your phone and do that. And now that doesn't happen. Like I just know like kids now get in their car and the first thing they do is plug in their Spotify list. And yes, I said Spotify, not the other app. Like they plug that in and that's the first thing that they listen to. And instead of chiming in. And then you get the people that, used to you were part of their day, like interacting with you on your way to or from work or hearing somebody else interact with you on their way to or from work was a part of their life. And I feel like that's the one thing that was special that's kind of been gone.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it just kind of hurts my feelings in a way.
It does. It does with me too, because it's definitely changed. The personability in within radio has definitely gone. If you really pay attention to a radio station now, I can't remember the last time that I've heard an actual caller on a radio station outside of the big dogs, New York, Z100 or somebody like that. But you just don't hear actual conversations, interaction, local interaction anymore. And that's
There,
because most of those guys are not within even 100 miles of those stations that they're on.
no, and there are a few here and there. Definitely the stations I work for in Cincinnati have those guys are
Yeah.
fantastic and they do like I can tell when there's somebody live and there's some
Hmm.
well, I mean it helps that there's actually somebody there. But it's just I noticed during the pandemic when I was in Indianapolis, when I was in that studio, my show was insanely interactive and I had people calling in and doing whatever. And then when everybody was kind of forced to work from home, like I noticed the difference in my show because I didn't have the
Hmm.
ability. I made no bones about it. I wasn't physically in the studio. So I didn't have the means to take, you know, 15 calls in 10 minutes to discuss
Well, yeah.
whatever I was discussing.
I think COVID was one of the nails in the coffin for radio as we knew it, the way it was when we were in it. Like our heyday. Well, you're still in it. I am no longer. I am semi-retired, I guess, if you will.
Oh, you said the retirement word. How's your copper fit treating you?
Uh, well, It'd be even better if I could get them to sponsor me because I'm covered in it.
Right.
But it's I really truly think that COVID had a big, huge in changing the face of radio, the way it was, the way it used to be. Because nobody nobody needed to be in studio as frequently as they were previously, and so the need for the bodies wasn't there.
No,
I think it took away from that creative aspect because there was less human interaction around studios, less human interaction as it was on air between the listener because that was declining. I just think COVID was definitely a finishing move on the way radio
yeah,
used.
I think it started in, to be real, it started in, if you go back to the early 2000s, most of the behind the curtain stuff, the majority of your major broadcasting companies that own radio stations, all of them are in massive debt. They have been forever. They keep kicking the can down the street, trying to find new ways to pay it off, but they're all in debt.
Yep.
So what happens when they're in debt is, and it kind of started in 2008 when the economy crashed. Like all those banks that because a lot of those companies bought, if you're not familiar with the term, they bought it for like what the cash value was. They were buying property for 10 and 15 times, sometimes more, sometimes less cash value so they could own everything.
Right.
And then all of a sudden the banks came knocking and went, "Hey, we want our money." And they were like, "Oh, whoa, whoa, we can't."
Oh, hang on. Hey, hold on. Just give me a
So,
minute.
right, the first person to pay the price, it started with your talent got cut. And that's unfortunate because a lot of those people were far more talented than I'll ever be, but they ended up losing their job because they were, all right, well, we got to cut someplace. Oh, we don't need this person that does this. We don't need this person that does that. And then I think that kind of continued on for a while because there was so much debt. And then technology stepped in and we're like, well, hey, we can have one person in Dallas, they can do shows, they can do one show, and we can just farm that out to 400 other cities. And look at all the money we'll save by not paying somebody $35,000 a year. I mean, that's kind of where it started. And I think you're right about the pandemic because I think when the pandemic started, the company I worked for they broke it down in a few different ways. The super higher up executives, they worked the entire time and they had to take a pay cut, a certain amount of pay cut. And then the people my level, slightly above, slightly under, we had to furlough 1 week a month for 3 months, meaning we still get paid for a week. And then
Hmm.
they had the people that were taking a mandatory 90-day furlough, which is what they said. And as soon as that happened, I went in my head like, oh, those are the people that aren't coming back. Like, because, you know, they weren't going to necessarily need those jobs. Right. Yeah. It's like,
I was me. That was me.
yeah.
As soon as they gave me that I got the message about the furlough, that I was being placed on furlough, that it was a 90-day furlough, and I went 90 days, and they went, no, no, really 90 days, and I went 90 days because I knew I'm not
Right.
dumb. I have the pleasure of playing the town idiot, but I come on.
Right.
If
But
somebody
it was,
says, "Hey, we're going to take you off payroll for 90 days and just so that we can save a buck," are you really believing that you're? I mean, yes, there are some situations where that is really the case that it's 90 days, but I knew better. I knew better.
well, and radio is something that's always strongest when you could get out and do things. And you're talking about a year and a half time period where there were no
Yeah, they did.
concerts or events to go out and do anything with. And people kind of, the stations that they always knew were there that had been there for 30, 40, 20, 50 years, they did fine. But anybody else was forgotten about because, and I'm guilty of it. When I was working from home, Yeah, I had my station on in the background so I could hear it, but I was streaming what at Sports Center on one TV. I had my computers going and everything else. You started forgetting about that. And when you took it out of the car and people weren't driving anymore, it was a big impact. Like that was the part of their lives that, oh, well, my commute now consisted of going from my bedroom to the bathroom to wherever I'm going to work in my house for that day. I didn't have to get in the car and drive 25 minutes to my office. So I didn't listen to anything because it was unnecessary. And like when I always looked at the morning show I did, it was designed for a hectic lifestyle where it was a two-parent household that they didn't have time to sit around and watch the Today Show or Good Morning America for an hour and a half in the morning while their kids were going. They got their kids ready to school, they got them in the car, and we were their version of the Today Show or Good Morning America because they couldn't sit in front of a TV. And that all changed. And it's just kind of, a lot of ways it's never recovered. But on National DJ
Hmm.
Day, it just breaks my heart because I know a lot of people that just those jobs went away. And some of them had been doing those jobs for 30 plus years. And you got to try to figure out, what do I do now? And I still question that. I'm like, I don't know what my skill set translates into. Yeah, I can talk and I can bullshit a lot, but I don't know if that, has the same impact someplace else that it would in other places. And it's just kind
What do
of
you
like
mean?
the other,
That's
well, but the
exactly
other
what
thing
you
I
do every
do,
day.
I know,
You
but the other
talking
thing
and
I think,
bullshit.
but the other thing that I think I look at is I go, because of what it was, I look at it and go, I have talked to everybody from owners of businesses to politicians to general people and everything else from a public relations standpoint. And they go, oh, well, you don't have any public relations experience. Did you ever read my resume? Do you know what I did for 20 years? Like all I did is talk to the public, kind of
Right.
thing. But nobody sees that. Or they look at the fact that, oh, well, you have a 20-year-old marketing degree. That's not going to work. Thanks. I already knew that. I knew that when it was a 2-year-old marketing degree, but thank you very much. It's just kind of weird. But the next time you hear somebody on the radio, and I'm not trying to ruin radio for anybody, but it just, if we are keeping it real, most of those buildings are ghost towns now. And that's truly sad because if you ever had any kind of experience working in a radio station when it was active and there were people everywhere, it was probably one of the coolest work environments you would ever work in because it
Hmm.
was, dress up, not unless you had a funeral, job interview, or court. Like it was,
I
you
mean,
would,
and you had all of these adults who worked hard and played hard too.
right,
And I mean, you could walk into a radio station and literally witness that atmosphere. I mean, you can go into one side and see the sales department working hard in communicating and going through meetings, and then you'd see like the traffic department who did the commercials and structured commercials and put in the commercial spots. They were always hardworking in a tight knit community that did their thing. But then you saw like the talent who you went where all the jocks were. It was like freaking play school 24/7. I
right,
mean, yes, we worked, but it was like what you heard was what you saw before your eyes.
right.
And just all of us in one area together. But it was one hell of an atmosphere to just witness. And then that's really what I was getting at is that to walk into a radio station the way it was, it was cool. It was an experience. There was no way that you could walk through that building and get the same experience twice.
No, and it's kind of funny now because like if you go into a building now, you'll see somebody there and maybe they've got music on in the background or they got headphones on or something else. And you can attest to this. If you walked past my office, stereo was loud, there was something going on. Like I always had, like it was animated. It was like and it was a bad college dorm room probably, but it was but that's how it was. And it's just it was a really I always said like back in the day, somebody should have either done a reality show about a radio station or a sitcom. I mean, I know there was
Yeah.
WKRP in Cincinnati,
Yeah.
but somebody should have done a reality show about a radio station because every day, like there was some kind of adventure of some sort, or there was just like a lot of like, the term madcap might not be right, but there was just a lot of like comedy and stuff that went on every day. I mean, from people pranking each other to, and it was accepted. Like now it would be an HR nightmare. Like,
Yes. Oh my God. The I don't know, the rock guy passing by your office and doing drive-by fartings. I mean,
right.
just the crazy stuff that would happen and the crazy shit that was said, because we needed an outlet too. So
Dude,
we couldn't, there were things that we couldn't say and do on the air that happened in the hallways or in the offices.
no,
So
I remember there was an engineer that like if they went to the bathroom, like you could not go into the bathroom after that for a long time.
yeah, I know what you're
And
talking
we would have just so everybody knows there's a code orange.
about.
You didn't know what it was. It's just,
Forgot about the corridor.
it's a code orange. You're gonna want to stay out of
Yeah.
there. Like,
Yep.
and
Now, and now, what? Mind you, when a code orange is being announced, this is being announced over the
the
PA system
loudspeaker,
within
like the
within
all page in the building. Well, everybody know there's a code orange in effect. Like,
no code
then you have to one like, what is a code orange?
yeah, right. The new person going to code orange. What?
Well, back. I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Go right on ahead. Oh,
Whatever
geez.
you do, don't. It was just and it was a fun environment and privilege to be able to work in it and to be on the air and stuff like that. And now, like, I look at people that, hey, I'm voice tracking 16 cities. Great. You know, congratulations. I've done it. It's not all it's cracked up to be. I mean, again, I continue to do it, but it's just, I can't say that I don't have fun doing it because I do. And I am honored to be able to do it, but it's not the same. It's not the same, I
No,
guess,
no.
as it was. And it's kind of sad that like the next generation of you or me aren't going to be able to experience that, or the people who grew up calling all the time and hanging out with people who were on the air and missing are not going to experience the same thing as it used to be. And maybe it's probably just not as cool as we always thought it was. That's a possibility
Maybe
too.
not. That's a possibility that we really are just overgrown AV nerds that just are,
I was
aren't as cool.
When I got it, I was like, finally, I found something I can do that will pay me and I don't ever really have to grow up. This is the greatest thing ever. Like, and then one day I'm like, man, now I gotta grow up or at least try to. This sucks. I mean, even when I was a boss, I don't think anybody would ever claim I was mature. Like that's for sure.
Well, yeah, yeah.
I was
I'd have
calling
to
code
say
oranges just like everybody else was.
some of your interns were more mature than any of us, but yes.
Facts. Anyway, so that's what's on our mind tonight. That's the first episode. So if there's ever anything that's on your mind that you might want to put on our minds, feel free to like us, follow us at the social media. The links will be below. We're easy to find, and feel free to comment. Watch this on YouTube. Listen to it where you get podcasts, and let us know what you think. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll bring you on as well, and you can tell us what's on your mind. So, other
Love
than that,
that. Yeah.
catch you same time next week. Have a great week.